Intelligence agencies were famous for infiltrating top agents among the leaders of extremist movements. But some agencies, such as the FBI, also adopted the technique of infiltrating basic informers. First, the informer would linger around the community. Once accepted, he would simply go to meetings and collect as much information as possible.
I was recruited into Bassi after I had taken the standard entrance exam for police officers. And then we took the battery of tests. And then one day they called 3 people I didn't know that were from Bassi, called me down to the old police headquarters, and they asked me some questions, what did I feel about certain things. And one of the final questions was, what did I feel about Malcolm X? And I said, I didn't know that much about the man. And then after which, the following week, they said, we want you to try to get into Malcolm's organization, which was in the Teresa Hotel. So my next visit, I go to Malcolm's office in the Teresa Hotel, and I meet a fellow and express the fact that I wanted to join the organization. He gave me a questionnaire form to fill out, which I did. And then I started attending meetings.
Gene Roberts', of course, identity as a guard for Malcolm, undercover guard, never came out for about 6 years after Malcolm's death, when he was a witness doing the same kind of work in what's called the Panther 21 trial here in New York.
With Gene Roberts as a trusted bodyguard, the New York City police now had a man on the inside who could closely monitor the activities of the Muslim Mosque Incorporated, the OAAU, and the minister as well.
But if somebody attack what you love, each one of you in here would become a killer instantaneously. Am I lying? Mother, let somebody look like they're attacking your child. Here's a woman who fought a bear because the bear snatched her baby. And she ran the bear down, screaming until the bear dropped her baby. Love casts out fear. We don't give a damn about no white man law when you attack what we love. And frankly, it ain't none of your business. What have you got to say about it? Did you teach Malcolm? Did you make Malcolm? Did you clean up Malcolm? Did you put Malcolm out before the world? Was Malcolm your traitor or was he ours? And if we dealt with him like a nation deals with a traitor, what the hell business is it of yours?
In the cold, early morning hours of February 14, 1965, a Molotov cocktail smashed through a window of the house he shared with his pregnant wife and 4 young daughters. The minister and his family escaped unharmed through the flames and onto the lawn, where they saw the raging inferno destroy their home.
I stood in my underwear, bare feet, in the middle of my driveway with a gun in my hand for 45 minutes, waiting for the police or waiting for the fire department to come.
Had any threats? That's all I get is threats. I get not less than 6 or 7 threatening phone calls every day.
He found his family shelter at a friend's home, and the next day, he flew to Detroit to keep a speaking engagement.
Distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, friends and enemies. It isn't something that made me lose confidence in what I'm doing, because my wife understands, and I have children from this size on down, and even in their young age, they understand. I think they would rather have a father or brother, or whatever the situation may be, who will take a stand in the face of any kind of reaction from narrow-minded people, rather than to compromise and later on have to grow up in shame and in disgrace.
Was Malcolm X fully aware of the danger of being killed? No doubt. But nothing, absolutely nothing, seemed to alter his determination. His determination to change the world, fight injustice, give pride back to the black people. For Malcolm X, to blot out the disgrace of slavery forever, people would have to acknowledge their African roots. February 21st, 1965. Malcolm is to give a lecture at the Audubon Ballroom. Suddenly,
"Nigga, get your hand out of my pocket!"
He came out on the stage. The introductory speaker turned over the platform to him, and he raised his hand in a Muslim greeting, Salam Alaikum. At that point, I heard a rumbling behind me, and I'm sure everyone else did too, and I turned around in my seat to see what it was. And then we saw, I saw two guys standing up, and the next thing, my next impression, it all happened very rapidly, as you can understand, is of the gunshots. And I saw Malcolm had his hand up. He said, "Stay cool, stay calm," or something like that.
at 3:15 p.m. While addressing the public in the Audubon Ballroom in Harlem, Malcolm X was shot. 13 bullets went through his body. It then seemed obvious that Malcolm X was the victim of the war existing between rival groups inside the Black Islamist movement. 3 members of the Black Muslim team of stewards were found guilty: Norman Butler, Thomas Johnson, and Talmadge Hayer. Hayer declared during the trial that he was one of the killers, but that Butler and Johnson didn't have anything to do with the murder. On the other hand, Hayer refused to give the names of his real accomplices. Without trying to solve this mystery, that will no doubt remain a mystery for a long time, we will turn the matter over to people who have been working on it for many years.
There were several assassin teams out there. It's just that the team that came out of Newark that ultimately killed him had their opportunity before the rest of them. I did my best to try to get as much information as I could on the men that Hayer named. Ben Thomas, you know, was the Assistant Secretary of Mosque number 25. He was also the treasurer of the Patterson Mosque. Thomas will ultimately be killed on October 28, 1986, in a small town outside of Orlando, Florida called Apopka. He took a .357 Magnum to the head. And Leon Davis, who was just an FOI member, he was like the youngest member of the assassination group. Willie Bradley, who ultimately fired the shotgun. He's about 28. He was known in Newark as the stick-up man. And Wilbur McKinley or McKinley, Hayer never was really sure on what his name was. But he was the oldest member of the assassination team, and you know, he owned like a construction company in the area. Longtime member of the Newark community.
Thomas drew it in his own handwriting and described exactly how the murder took place, how they cased the Audubon Ballroom the night before. There was a dance in progress, and they mingled with the dancers. And then they came the next day in a Cadillac owned by one of them, parked it facing the George Washington Bridge. 3 sat in the front row and 2 in the back. And the signal was, as soon as Malcolm came and gave the salams, they would then have some sort of a diversion in the back of the room. A smoke bomb would be thrown, and one of the men was supposed to yell, "Nigger, get your hand out of my pocket."
And remember now, Hayer is a foot soldier in all of this. He's not on the inside of who is taking orders from whom. What he always thought was that Ben, because Ben was an official, was the, and because Ben, was the major person who was kind of like, who called him into it, along with Davis, he always assumed that Ben Thomas was taking orders from someone else.
John Ali is a very important man in this story. He is simultaneously the National Secretary of the Nation of Islam and an FBI informer. He is named an FBI informer in 2 books by Lou Lomax during the 1960s and by Carl Evans in a book published 2 years ago. He never complained, he never sued, he never said a word. Second, John Ali is the man who met with Thomas Hayer the night before the assassination and recruited Hayer into the assassination team. And John Ali comes to New York 2 days before the assassination, and as soon as Malcolm is dead, he flies to Chicago, and there is a very famous photograph of him reporting directly to Elijah Muhammad on the evening of Malcolm's